First of all, I'm giving you a brief review of the hemostasis that I hope you already know about the hemostasis because you must have gone through your physiology lectures. So the hemostasis overview is when the blood vessel gets injured. For example, vessel in my hand or a capillary or an arteriole that gets a cut or it gets injured due to any cause. What are the mechanisms that are trying to restore the blood flow in its normal, normal state? ठीक है, ना वो coagulated हो, ना वो इसकी एक्सट्रीम फ्लूइडिटी हो, ब्लड इन इट्स नॉर्मल फ्लूइड फॉर्म वो फ्लो करता रहे. Okay, so whenever there is blood vessel injury, the first response to suppress that bleeding, control that bleeding, is the neural mechanism. Neural mechanism that automatically with the nerve response, the blood vessels in that region which has got injured, these blood vessels, they will be constricted and they will be reducing the blood flow. Okay, the second thing that gets in process is the platelet activation. The platelet in that area, because blood is flowing, and when the platelets, they come in contact with the injured blood vessel or the exposed collagen of the blood vessel, these platelets, they get activated, and we'll discuss what are the steps of these platelet activation. But the overall result, because we are here for the overview in the first slide, so these platelets, they get aggregated and they form primary hemostatic plug. This is a primary hemostatic plug, not a stable hemostatic plug. But if this primary hemostatic plug is enough to control the minor bleeds, for example, capillary bleeds and छोटे मोटे जो आपको इंजरी हो जाती है, for example, with the knife, finger cut with a knife. So this platelet activation is enough to control that bleeding. This primary hemostatic plug is enough, and there is no need of activating the coagulation factors and form a stable hemostatic plug. But what happens if the bleeding doesn't get controlled with this platelet aggregation, and if there is large cuts, large injury, okay, the extent of injury is more than to be controlled with the primary hemostatic plug. So there is a coagulation cascade mechanism get activated. We'll discuss the coagulation cascade as well. But this coagulation cascade, the result of this coagulation cascade is the fibrin formation. A fibrin meshwork is formed, and that fibrin meshwork stabilizes the primary hemostatic plug, and this results in the formation of the stable hemostatic plug. Okay, I hope you have understood up till now, because if you understand the primary and secondary hemostasis, the disorders of bleeding diathesis would not be a problem for you, I'm sure. Okay, so now a more detailed view. You can see here. I'll quickly go through these slides. I hope you will understand and try to be at the same pace of mine, because I was late. I'm already late for the lecture. Okay, so this is the site of injury. You can see here, site of injury. Okay, this endothelium, the continuation of this was the endothelium, and you can see the continuation of endothelium is broken now. Okay, so this here the collagen is exposed, subendothelial collagen is exposed. This is the site of injury. The blood was flowing in its normal fluid form. When the platelets, they come in, so there is reflex vasoconstriction. First mechanism is the neural mechanism to control the bleeding. So you can see here the reflex vasoconstriction. Okay, in the second picture you can see that due to this reflex vasoconstriction and the collagen which is getting exposed, this is extracellular matrix collagen, this light pink lines. So these light pink lines, because platelets are flowing from here, so when the platelets, they come in contact with this exposed collagen, what happened? There is three mechanisms that platelet go through. First of all is their activation. Okay, they come in contact with this collagen. Concentrate on this second diagram, which is focusing the primary hemostasis. You can see these platelets, they come in contact with the collagen, they change their shape. You can see circular से वो बिल्कुल disc shape हो गया, and disc shape के बाद आप you can see here, this is a release mechanism. They release their contents, they release their alpha granules, and different granules are there in the platelets, and different factors are there. So there is granule release reaction, and these contents, they get released into the blood circulation, and these factors like ADP, thromboxane A2, which are released from the platelet itself, they further activate the platelet. They attract more platelet towards the site of the injury. So you can see here the platelet first change their shape, and then they start getting aggregated. So this aggregation of platelet, this is the primary hemostasis. Okay, यहाँ तक आपकी primary hemostasis. Secondly क्या होता है? because this is blood. Imagine blood के blood के अंदर जो है वो coagulation factors भी हैं in their non-active form. So the tissue factor is one of the coagulation factor. It is also getting exposed to the ruptured endothelium. Okay, and it comes in contact with the collagen, it comes in contact with the activated platelet. So this tissue factor gets activated. The activation of the tissue factor leads to the activation of whole coagulation cascade, the extrinsic mechanism, intrinsic mechanism. I hope you know the cycle of the coagulation, that they all converge at the center of factor 10 activation. And the factor 10 activation with the help of factor 5, it leads to the formation of the fibrin, thrombin generation, and then fibrin generation. So the blue color here, you can see here the blue color, which is of fibrin. This fibrin is the result of coagulation cascade. So it is stabilizing the hemostatic plug. This is a more stable hemostatic plug, which is supported by a meshwork of fibrin. Okay, so this hemostatic plug will, this is a stable hemostatic plug. This is called secondary hemostasis. And in third stage, after the formation of the secondary hemostasis, because I already mentioned that the purpose of the hemostasis is to keep blood in its normal fluid form, to freely move kare. So this is a plug. It will be causing the, a hindrance to the normal blood flow. So it has to resolve. This is a normal process. Physiological mechanism. When the vessel get injured, there are mechanisms to restore the blood flow. There are mechanisms to stop the bleeding, and then to resolve that hemostatic plug, because this hemostatic plug should not be here for longer time. So we have a thrombus and anti-thrombotic events to dissolve all this fibrin meshwork or the stable hemostatic plug. And I'll not go into the details. When their blood vessel get ruptured, there are inflammatory agents are there, neutrophils are there, macrophages are there. They will be there are factors like fibrin will be broken down into its normal fibrin degradation products, and the whole debris will be digested by neutrophils and macrophages, and the blood vessel will come into its normal state, like by the process of healing and regeneration, and a new endothelium will be formed. So basically the hemostatic plug is giving the blood vessel enough time to restore the blood flow and to regenerate, restabilize the normal endothelium. It is basically giving the time. Again, platelet deposition and adhesion, then platelet release reaction, and it leads to the platelet aggregation. And this is the coagulation cascade. I'll not go into the detail. Tissue factor hai, then intrinsic pathway hai, they converge into a common pathway. Common pathway ka function kya hai? Prothrombin ko convert karta hai thrombin में, thrombin converts the fibrinogen into the fibrin. Okay, this is excessive bleeding can result. We are here to discuss the bleeding disorders. So what are the things that can lead to excessive bleeding? Excessive bleeding can result from, first of all, increased fragility of the vessel wall, because there is some, some disorder with the vessel wall, collagen malformations and basement disorders and basement membrane. Okay, platelet deficiency or dysfunction and defects in coagulation cascade. We will be focusing, because we are going through the hematology module, I'll be focusing on these two: platelet deficiency or dysfunction and defects in coagulation cascade. Okay. Common laboratory test to evaluate bleeding diathesis. I hope you are getting all these things. I am just quickly going through all this because this was normal physiology. It was nothing related to pathology up till now. And now we're discussing common laboratory tests to evaluate a bleeding diathesis. Prothrombin time, extrinsic and common, factor 7, factor 5, factor 10, prothrombin fibrinogen. If any of these factor is deficient, extrinsic pathway के factor is deficient है, तो हमें कैसे पता चलेगा? Prothrombin time से. If the APTT is elevated, तो इसका मतलब है the defect lies in the intrinsic pathway. And the intrinsic pathway factors are factor 8, 9, 11, 12. You should know. Platelet count. 150 to 300, some laboratory says 150 to 450 is the normal platelet count. Some book says 150 to 300, but less than 150 and less than 100 is surely the thrombocytopenia. So the method to evaluate the bleeding diathesis, first of all, we go for the CBC, platelet count. And then if the platelet count is normal, then we go for the PT and APTT to rule out what is the problem, why the bleeding is not getting control, and why this patient presenting with the bleeding disorders. Okay. Then we have more specialized tests. तो disorder का जो आपका order of testing है वो सबसे पहले platelet count है, then coagulation factors है, and then if all these things are normal, then we move towards the test of platelet function, because these are more specialized tests, more specific, and more, these are more expensive. So we have to go through the common laboratory test should be ordered, and then move towards a specialized test if the problem is not resolved. This is a normal order of testing. So the test of platelet function, platelet aggregation in response to agonist like thrombin, platelet function test कराते हैं. Test of convalescent factor, bleeding time देख लेते हैं. Bleeding time अब तो obsolete हो गया है. Levels of specific clotting factors, fibrinogen and fibrin split products. Okay. If the platelet count is normal, what do you think? If the coagulation factors are normal, if the PTA, PTP is normal, if the platelet count is normal, तो हम उसको चेक करते हैं कि प्लेटलेट फंक्शन नॉर्मल है कि नहीं है, यानी कि रिलीज रिएक्शन हो रहा है, एडीपी या थ्रोम्बोक्सिन एटीपी रिस्पांस में प्लेटलेट की एग्रीगेशन है भी नहीं. तो these are the platelet function test. Okay, bleeding disorders caused by vessel wall abnormality. This is just simply a list, and we'll not be discussing the details here because we'll be focusing on the platelet disorder and the coagulation disorders. Bleeding disorders caused by vessel wall abnormalities. These are relatively more common than platelet disorders, do not usually cause serious bleeding, presents with petechial purpura in the skin of mucous membrane. Occasionally, patient can present with menorrhagia or GI bleeds, nose bleeds, epistaxis, or hematuria. So the labs will be ordering platelet count, PT, APTT, or even platelet function test. They all will be normal. So this is a diagnosis of extrusion. Then clinical conditions in which these abnormalities in the vessel wall can cause bleeding. Just have a look on this. Okay, infections में meningococcemia, infective endocarditis, rickettsiosis, there can be drug reaction, vasculitis, scurvy, Ehlers-Danlos syndrome, Hinoch's colony, purpura, hereditary hemorrhagic telangiectasia. This is a list of the disorder that can present with bleeding. Okay, we'll be focusing on the platelet disorders. Bleeding due to reduction in the platelet number. Okay, if the platelet count is less than 100, patient is not likely to bleed spontaneously, but it can happen that stopping a bleed can be a problem. But important cause of generalized bleeding, spontaneous bleeding, is the platelet count of 20,000 to 50,000, and it is the bleeding with the platelet count of 20,000 to 50,000, it's mostly post-traumatic. Even at count of 20 or 30,000, patient doesn't bleed spontaneous. The spontaneous bleed means without any traumatic agent, without any aggravating factor, or जो after a trauma होते हैं that are not spontaneous bleed, they are post-traumatic bleed. So less than 20,000 platelet count will lead to the spontaneous non-traumatic bleed. Spontaneous bleeding involves mucous membrane, हो सकती है skin, small vessels, epistaxis, menorrhagia. लैब में CBC कराएंगे और PTA PTT कराएंगे. Okay, these are the causes of the thrombocytopenia. अगर if the platelet count is low, patient आगे आपने CBC कराया and you find that platelet count is low, how will you investigate that patient? So you should know the causes of the thrombocytopenia, and which is a very long list. But to classify, we can say that because we all know that the platelets are generated from the bone marrow, so either the problem lies within the bone marrow, or there is some peripheral mechanism that is, digesting or occupying the platelets, or the platelets are getting involved in some peripheral location. So we'll be discussing this decreased platelet production from the bone marrow. There are so many conditions. For example, aplastic anemia patient को generalized RBC भी नहीं बनेंगे, WBC भी नहीं बनेंगे, और platelets भी नहीं. तो as a part of generalized bone marrow failure हो सकता है, like in aplastic anemia. और क्या reasons हो सकते हैं आप लोग मुझे बता दें तो ज्यादा अच्छा है. Yes, जल्दी decreased platelet production के क्या reason हो सकते हैं? थर्ड ईयर या फर्स्ट ईयर में पढ़ा होगा. Nobody is interested to reply, I think. Radiation, bone marrow failure, very good. It is aplastic anemia. Bone marrow failure can be due to radiation. Cancer, very good. Which cancers? Parvovirus, B19 infection, drugs, vitamin K deficiency, I am not sure. Drugs हैं, okay, like program, chemotherapeutic drugs, okay. Hemolytic anemia में क्यों प्लेटलेट भाई कम होंगे? हेमोलिटिक एनीमिया में तो नहीं. ल्यूकीमिया, यस ल्यूकीमिया। बेटा आप लोग डायरेक्ट मैसेज के बजाय मेन चैट विंडो पे मैसेज करें ताकि ऑल स्टूडेंट्स कैन सी योर रिप्लाई, बिकॉज इट्स वी ऑल आर इन लर्निंग फेज, आपसे भी लर्न कर रहे हैं ना बच्चे। ओके, ए प्लास्टिक अनीमिया, लॉस ऑफ आरबीसी से why hemolytic anemia will lead to the platelet decrease in platelet count. No, decreased platelet production is a part of generalized bone marrow failure. Patient chemotherapy ले रहा है, patient radiotherapy ले रहा है, ये plastic anemia है, myelodysplasia है, leukemias है, so they all can lead to the, because leukemia में we after some lectures we will be discussing leukemias. So leukemia में जो leukemic cells they occupy the bone marrow and then decrease the space for the normal platelets. Then sequestration or the hypersplenism. Normally spleen में all the blood is passing through the spleen. Check mechanism in spleen. But if the spleen gets enlarged, most of the blood is pulled into the spleen. So this also leads to the sometimes pancytopenia or sometimes only thrombocytopenia. Okay, decreased platelet survival. Dengue fever, good. Dengue fever is also caused, but abnormal liver function. Yes, thrombopoietin is released from the platelet. That's why abnormal liver function can also lead to thrombocytopenia. Decreased platelet survival. It means simply like hemolytic anemia में जैसा होता है autoimmune हो सकता है, autoimmune हो सकता है. Can you name a disease in which there is autoimmune mediated thrombocytopenia? Hemolytic uremic syndrome. We'll see what kind of hemolytic uremic syndrome में किस तरह का thrombocytopenia होगा. ITP, good. Autoimmune thrombocytopenia is ITP, immune-mediated thrombocytopenia, and then dilutional thrombocytopenia, which occur due to the transfusions. Massive transfusions हो गए तो वो dilutional होता है. It's a relative thrombocytopenia. Basically, patient को thrombocytopenia हो नहीं रहा होता. You are transfusing him with so much blood, and as a result, the platelet count is decreasing. So it's very easy कि आप उसको platelet also transfuse a platelet also. SLE में भी immune mediated है, drug induced thrombocytopenia can be, drugs can have a direct effect on the bone marrow, or there are some drugs which lead to the immune mediated thrombocytopenia. SLE is also an autoimmune disorder in which ITP can coexist. Very good. Okay. Now coming to the chronic immune thrombocytopenic purpura, which is ITP. Chronic ITP is caused by autoantibody-mediated destruction of the platelet. Okay. Secondary, primary और idiopathic. Secondary, तो there is a long list in which SLE भी है और दूसरे भी हैं. The diagnosis of primary chronic ITP is made only after secondary causes are excluded. How will you reach the diagnosis of ITP? Is the पूरी long list. This long list should be excluded. Drugs भी नहीं है, bone marrow suppression भी नहीं है, bone marrow में there is enough megakaryocytes, and it's not drug related. Patient is not taking any such drug, or there is no coexist disease that can lead to the thrombocytopenia. So if there is no such disease existing, there is no problem with the bone marrow, the patient is not taking any drug which can be related to thrombocytopenia, only then we diagnose the patient has ITP. Okay. So ITP के causes में primary cause जो है वो idiopathic है. First of all, why the patient is having ITP? We don't know. 80% cases में it is idiopathic. We don't know the causes. We don't know the cause why patient develop ITP. Okay. जो remaining 20% cases हैं, those are related to the SLE, secondary ITP. Primary ITP is idiopathic. You don't know any cause. The patient does not have SLE. Patient does not have antiphospholipid syndrome. Patient does not have any leukemia, any H. pylori, any hepatitis C. Patient does not have any of these disease, and you don't know why ITP happened in this patient. So this type of ITP, which cannot be related to any cause, this is 80% cases में ITP is idiopathic. You don't know the cause. Remaining 20% cases में it is related to SLE, antiphospholipid syndrome, CLL, Evans syndrome, post-transfusion, as I mentioned, dilution thrombocytopenia, HIV, hepatitis C, H. pylori, and there are infections like somebody also mentioned dengue fever, okay, and malaria. So what is the pathogenesis of ITP? Basically, I am discussing here primary idiopathic ITP. Okay, how this ITP happens? Autoantibodies are developed against either GP2B3A or GP1B9. These are the platelet receptors. okay, platelet glycoproteins, which help them to attach to the collagen and which help them to attach to one another. Yeah, the primary hemostatic plug, the platelets were getting attached to the basement membrane collagen. This was adhesion, and the platelets are getting attached to each other. This was aggregation. So these are the two glycoproteins, surface markers of the platelets, that help the platelet to get attached to the basement membrane and to get attached to each other. IgG opsonins, IgG Fc receptors on platelets. So what happened? This is these are the autoantibodies that are formed against these glycoproteins. So these glycoproteins are on the surface of the platelet. These antibodies, they get attached to these glycoproteins. Okay, तो इस platelet को क्या कहेंगे? Same mechanism है autoimmune hemolytic anemia का. ये जो platelet है to which the antibodies are attached, this is a sensitized platelet. Okay, this is a sensitized platelet. This sensitized platelet, this is the Fc portion, this is the Fab portion. Fab portion gets attached to the glycoproteins, and this Fc portion has its receptor. You all know this Fc portion has its receptor on the platelet as well as on the macrophages. तो ये जो है ये sensitized platelet का Fc portion जो है, it will get attached to the Fc receptor of the macrophage. And what will happen next? The macrophage will engulf this platelet. So this is auto destruction, or we can say peripheral consumption of the platelet. Okay, these, because of the antibody formation, these platelets are getting neutralized or getting phagocytized by the macrophage. Clinical presentation is not different. Okay, ITP clinical presentation is same as the presentation in other platelet disorders. So there is no difference in the platelet, you just have to investigate the patient. Excessive bleeding with minor injuries, spontaneous bleeding will be mucous membrane. Say epistaxis is very common, mouth bleed, gum bleed, nose bleed, these are very common. Unexplainable or spontaneous bruising. Okay, ecchymosis, petechiae, hematuria, menorrhagia. Intracranial bleed is very rare and it is usually occur in platelet level if platelets are less than 10,000. Purpura and thrombocytopenia. ITP patients, they survive even on very low platelet count, and they do not have, they do not have a spontaneous bleed even on 20,000 platelet count. Why? Because their bone marrow is functioning and their bone marrow is producing because there is peripheral consumption of the platelet. So the bone marrow is producing more platelets, and those platelets are young and they are more functioning than normal platelets. So ITP patients usually sustain a platelet count of 20,000 and they do not bleed spontaneously. Diagnosis, ITP characteristic presentation. Secondly, there will be no splenomegaly, there will be no lymphadenopathy. So by splenomegaly, you are ruling out all the causes related to the hyperinsulationism. And by lymphadenopathy, mentioning that there is no lymphadenopathy, basically you are ruling out CLL, ALL, or whatever, many other infections which can lead to lymphadenopathy. Labs may will be ordering CBC, peripheral film, PT. Can you repeat the part of the platelet levels? But I don't get your question. Platelet levels. Abhi to. Okay. Diagnosis, CBC, peripheral film, PT, APTT, and bone marrow biopsy. Bone marrow biopsy, there will be enough platelets, so ITP is a diagnosis of exclusion. Okay. These are the young platelets, and this is a picture of the bone marrow in which you can see enough megakaryocytes. Then we have acute ITP. Acute ITP, first we will discussing chronic idiopathic ITP, and now we will be discussing acute ITP. Ye usually a consequence of disordered immune response during recovery from a viral infection that involves the formation of antibodies that cause platelet destruction. Okay, in response to viral infection, antibodies are formed. Antibodies are targeted against the virus, but the antigen is somewhat similar to the platelet surface antigens, and these antibodies, they cause platelet destruction as well. So acute ITP usually occurs after viral infections. Self-limiting होती है 80% cases में. Only 20% of children develop chronic ITP. Then we have drug-induced thrombocytopenia. Drugs can have direct effects on platelet. Immune mediated हो सकता है. Maybe वो drugs जो है, they can act as heparin molecule. They can lead to the formation of the antibodies, and the antibodies directed against those drug antigens, they cross-react with the platelet antigens. This is the normal mechanism with the any immune-mediated hemolytic anemia or either immune-mediated platelet destruction. So drugs can have direct effects on bone marrow. Drug can lead to the immune-mediated platelet destruction. जो list examples में mentioned है vancomycin, quinine, and the sulfa drugs, sulfa compounds. Then we have heparin-induced thrombocytopenia. We are here discussing important causes of thrombocytopenia. Okay, जो bone marrow related disorders है, plastic anemia, you will be having a separate lecture. Leukemias, you will be having a separate lecture. Chemo and radiation can lead to the overall bone marrow suppression. So the things that are important to discuss is ITP, heparin-induced thrombocytopenia. This is a heparin, basically it's an anticoagulant drug. Okay. Thrombocytopenia occurs in about 5% of persons receiving heparin. It's of two types. Heparin hit type 1 कहते हैं उसको, heparin induced thrombocytopenia type 1 and heparin induced thrombocytopenia type 2. Type 1 जो है, this is simply clumping due to the heparin. Type 1 is simply clumping due to the heparin and it will resolve spontaneously. They can simply clumping it. So basically we cannot say it's a thrombocytopenia. Basically it's clumping of platelet that is giving a false platelet count. If you examine the periplatelet, you'll get an estimation of normal platelet count. Heparin induced thrombocytopenia type 2. This is life-threatening, venous and arterial thrombosis and attack. Basically, thrombocytopenia is not life-threatening in this heparin-induced thrombocytopenia. It is called heparin-induced thrombocytopenia, but the thing that is leading to the life-threatening event is thrombosis. Antibodies that recognizes the complexes of heparin and the platelet factor 4, these antibodies, they get attached to the platelet. Binding of antibody to these complexes activates platelets and promotes thrombosis even in the setting of the thrombocytopenia. Okay. So this heparin and platelet factor 4 will make complex. The antibodies are directed against this complex, and this again same mechanism. The antibodies are getting attached to this platelet factor 4 and heparin complex, and the FC receptor, as I mentioned, the FC receptor is on macrophages as well as on platelets. So if this FC portion, it gets attached to the FC receptor of the platelet, it will be activating platelets further. Okay, because platelet factor 4 is also a platelet activating factor. Heparin is getting attached to it. Antibodies are formed against that platelet factor 4 and heparin complex. So these antibodies will further activating the platelet. So दो काम होंगे, एक तो platelet का FC receptor will be on the macrophages. So these will lead to the platelet removal by splenic macrophages and it will lead to the thrombocytopenia. On the other hand, the platelet, some antibody FC portion is getting attached to the FC receptor of the platelet, which is activating the platelet. So this will lead to the platelet activation, platelet release reaction, platelet aggregation, and in turn thrombosis. Okay, so when the platelet release reaction occurs, it will lead to the thrombosis, and this is heparin-induced thrombosis, which is life-threatening because thrombi will be formed. Okay. This is not very important, but it is mentioned in my slide, so I'll go through this risk factors for heparin-induced thrombocytopenia. सबसे पहले तो unfractionated heparin is more likely to cause heparin-induced thrombocytopenia. That's why now the clinicians have been shifted to the low molecular weight heparin. Okay. Secondly, therapeutic dose से ज़्यादा chances हैं heparin-induced thrombocytopenia as compared to the prophylactic dose. Females are more prone to develop it as compared to male. Surgical patients are more prone to develop it as compared to the medical patients. To the surgical patients, there is vascular trauma as well. Secondly, we have HIV-associated thrombocytopenia. Okay, HIV, basically, HIV-infected megakaryocytes are prone to apoptosis and their ability to produce platelet is impaired. Basically, HIV is directly infecting the megakaryocytes, and that megakaryocytes, they are prone to get apoptosis. They will be self-destroying, and their ability to produce platelet is getting impaired due to HIV. HIV infection also causes B cell hyperplasia. You know, B cells are antibody producing cells, and dysregulation leading to the development of autoimmune. So in the thrombocytopenia that is occurring in HIV is two-way. First of all, it is suppressing the megakaryocyte. Secondly, it is producing antibodies which are destroying the platelets through macrophages. Okay. Bleeding disorders related to the defective platelet functions. We were discussing the disorders that lead to the development of thrombocytopenia. Can you please list the important causes of thrombocytopenia? So I'll move forward, please. No one is interested? Okay, I think I should move forward. Bone marrow aplasia, Muiz Tariq, neoplastic changes, ITP और क्या पढ़ा है हमने? इतना जो पढ़ा है वो क्या पढ़ा है? Drug induced. Okay, which drugs I mentioned? Heparin induced thrombocytopenia. Good. ये एक बच्चा है मुइज़ तारिक, यही रिप्लाई करता है. Heparin induced, HIV induced, chemotherapeutic drugs, cancer drugs, वही हो गई, vancomycin, quinine drugs, sulfur drugs. Okay. Now bleeding disorders related to the defective platelet functions. Okay. हमें पता है steps, again repeat है ये slide, steps in plaque formation. सबसे पहले platelet adhesion, then release reaction, and then aggregation. If there is defect at any step, for example, तो इसी तरीके से we will classify the disorder, inherited disorders of platelet function, like defects of adhesion, disorders of platelet secretion, defects of aggregation. Okay, first of all, you can see here that this is the glycoprotein 1B, okay, and this is the von Willebrand factor which is exposed on the collagen, okay, basement membrane. So this GP1B is getting attached to the von Willebrand factor, and in this way the platelets are getting attached to this basement membrane. This process is adhesion. Okay, so if there is a defect in von Willebrand factor, or if there is a defect, if there is a deficiency of GP1B, it is termed as adhesion defect. Okay, GP1B का problem हो या von Willebrand factor का हो, deficiency von Willebrand factor हो या deficiency of GP1B हो, it will lead to adhesion defect. Then the platelets have another glycoprotein which is GP2B3A, and this GP2B3A is basically helping out a bridge between the platelets. Platelets, GP2B3A of one platelet is getting attached to the GP2B3A of other platelet, and this is lead to the aggregation. So if there is a deficiency of GP2B3A, it is aggregation defect. So if you look at this picture, now I will classify the adhesion and aggregation disorders. If there is a defect in GP1B, okay, if there is a defect in GP1B, or if there is inherited deficiency of GP1B, it is termed as Bernard-Soulier syndrome. Okay. If there is von Willebrand factor deficiency, it is again an adhesion defect. So it is von Willebrand disease. Von Willebrand disease is an adhesion defect. GP1B deficiency is an adhesion defect, and it is called as Bernard-Soulier syndrome. If there is a problem with GP2B3A or inherited deficiency of GP2B3A, it is termed as Glanzmann thrombocythemia. Coming to the Bernard-Soulier syndrome, as I have explained, an inherited deficiency of the platelet membrane glycoprotein complex 1B9. This glycoprotein is a receptor for von Willebrand factor. I have explained all this in the picture, and is essential for normal platelet adhesion to the subendothelial extracellular matrix. So this is all Bernard-Soulier syndrome. GP1B9 is deficient. This is Bernard-Soulier syndrome. What kind of defect it is? It is platelet adhesion defect, in which the platelets cannot get attached to the von Willebrand factor. And von Willebrand factor and GP1B mediated adhesion is defective due to the deficiency of GP1B9. Coming to the Glanzmann thrombocythemia, I have already explained. Deficiency or dysfunction of glycoprotein 2b3A, an integrin that participates in bridge formation between the platelets by binding fibrinogen. Platelets fail to aggregate in response to ADP, collagen, epinephrine, or thrombin. GP2B3A. Okay. Now, so we have discussed adhesion defect. We have discussed aggregation defect. Okay. Now coming to the disorders of the platelet secretion, storage pool defect. Defective release of certain mediators of platelet activation such as thromboxane and granule-bound ATP lead to this defect. Okay, I'm wrapping up the class. These are two types of granules are here. Just 5 minutes. Okay. Dense granules and alpha granules. So you can see from the book, you can see the contents of the dense granule, ADP and serotonin, and what does alpha granule contain? Platelet factor 4. And so if there is some defect in these granules or the products are not formed, so release reaction would not occur and it will lead to the defective aggregation. Acquired defects of platelet functions, you can see aspirin is a well-known drug for the platelet function defect. NSAIDs, aspirin is a potent irreversible inhibitor of enzyme cyclooxygenase. The anti-platelet effects of aspirin form the basis for its use in the prophylaxis of coronary thrombosis. जो आप heart patients को, MI के patients को, angina के patients को aspirin देते हैं, this is because of its anti-platelet function. और ये जो पूरा mechanism है phospholipids का, this production of thromboxane A2 gets affected with the aspirin. Then uremia. ये जो नहीं biochemistry में I believe that you must have gone through this chart in your biochemistry. Uremia. The pathogenesis of platelet dysfunction in uremia is complex and involves defects in adhesion, granule secretion, and aggregation. So uremia में what kind of defect? If I summarize the slide, what kind of platelet defect you get in uremia? Adhesion का भी है, aggregation का भी है, और release reaction का भी है. Okay. Now this is a slide. Important to know that how would you differentiate the platelet disorders and the coagulation disorders, although not very useful, because you not always go for the history of the patient. You just order the, after taking a history, you have a certain sequence of ordering tests. You will order CBC, you will order PT and APTT, and if the problem is not resolved, you will be moving towards a platelet function test. So, but on the basis of history, how can you get a clue that whether it is a coagulation disorder or the platelet disorder? So you can see here, the site of bleeding in platelet disorder is mostly, not always, mostly skin and the mucous membrane. Like epistaxis, a gum bleed, a nose bleed, or hematuria, they are more common with the platelet deficiency or the platelet disorder, while the coagulation disorders, where there is defect, the bleeding are in the deeper tissues, soft tissue, joint, muscle, hematoma, hemarthrosis, okay, muscle bleed, joint bleed, they are more common in the coagulation disorders like hemophilia. Okay, Pitaki are more common with the platelet disorder, with capillary bleed, okay, coagulation disorders with Pitaki are not that common. Ecchymosis usually in the platelet disorders small and superficial, while in coagulation disorders is large and deep. Hemarthrosis is very rare with the platelet disorder, but very common with the coagulation disorder. As I mentioned, hemarthrosis, bleeding into the joint, bleeding into the muscle. Bleeding after minor trauma है तो platelet disorder है, क्योंकि coagulation तो usually minor trauma में involve ही नहीं होती. Okay, bleeding after surgery. If there is platelet disorder, the bleeding after surgery will be immediate and it will be mild. While in coagulation disorder, there would be delayed bleeding. After 12 days, it would be a severe bleed. Okay, examples of platelet disorders or the primary hemostasis, I can say von Willebrand disease and the ITP, while the coagulation disorder is example hemophilia A and B. So you can see here, this is the hemarthrosis. Ye coagulation disorder example. Okay. Thank you very much. The class time is over. I'm sorry for the inconvenience that you faced because I was not informed about the class. So I am 30 minutes late. I'm sorry for that. I hope I have covered the topic. And if you any of you still have any problem, you can ask me through the mail or you can come to my office if you are coming to the college. Okay. Thank you very much.